gentlemen. We're on day 166 of Russia's invasion and on the ninth year of Russia's war against Ukraine. My name is Andriy Shevchenko. On behalf of the Mediacentru of Ukraine and our team, I welcome all the journalists telling the world about our struggle for freedom. With us is Serhii Bratchuk, Speaker of the Odesa Regional Military Administration. On Serhii, we've had fresh news that the air defense have taken down a Russian cruise missile over Odessa region. What are the latest news? Slava Ukraini, glory to Ukraine. Yes, uh, last night and already this morning we've had air raid alarms. Uh, we, but we've had um, a missile, caliber missile sent to Odessa from a submarine. But thanks to our air defense, this missile was destroyed. And again, we can say that our air defense have been working really well. All of this is happening against the backdrop of the third uh, port of Odessa opening today, the southern port, the Pivdenny port, um, with another vessel with Ukrainian grain moving out for export. So we see as the enemy is trying to uh, we see how Russia keeps to the agreements that they have made with Turkey and with the UN. Of course, we were prepared for this scenario, but we're working in a wartime uh, format. But the corridor is open, it's working, and it's working both ways, which is the most important thing. Do you see anything new in the tactics of Russian occupiers as far as missile strikes? What is their target? What is their goal? Are they aiming for any objects within the oblast? Are these missiles that fly over the oblast and actually aiming for further? Do you see anything new? As far as their goals and objectives, we understand that it's both psychological and military pressure on the locals, on the civilians. Um, this is something that's done both from air and from the temporarily occupied territories of Crimea, and from the vessels in the Black Sea. Obviously, civilian infrastructure and civilian targets are the primary goals, the killing of civilians, and also we understand that the Black Sea is a significant part of the front line, so these missiles often fly over us, moving to other regions of our country. The thing is also that the enemy is trying to strike other regions. They're trying to strike granaries. They're trying to strike fields, grain fields, because they understand that this is our resource, the resource that will help Ukraine finance the armed forces and thus move towards victory and peace. So nothing has changed. Particularly, the enemy remains an aggressive and terrorist state. If we can come back to the export of Ukrainian crops, you've mentioned a very important piece of news that this is the first ship that has left Pivdenny port. And if you could correct me, this is the third of the ports that we have that we're not trying to reopen. Before that, we had the Odessa port and Chornomorsk. So this seems like an extremely important moment. Based on the events of the past 2 days, how reliable do you think these routes are at the moment? How usable are they? Well, time tells us that the route is working. The armed forces of Ukraine, primarily the Navy, have done their jobs. The ports were prepared to work in these wartime conditions, and everybody has managed, and Ukraine has kept all of its obligations that Ukraine has taken on itself. Yes, the route is working. Yes, Pivdenny is the third port that has to open today. Uh, we've also had feed, we've had movement both sides. We hope that there are some negotiations in place to let other vessels, and I know that there are applications, there have been applications by now, over a dozen, uh, to let vessels come into our ports, take Ukrainian grains from last year's crops and move it to export. We also have to talk about security here because often Ukrainians are concerned about security. The waters of the Odessa ports have not been demined, so the security component is very important. There's a very clearly defined route which these caravans with Ukrainian grain can follow to take the grain for export. I hope that this corridor will continue to function, that all of the guarantees that Turkey and UN have given will be maintained, and of course our navy remains our chief guarantor. The ports are open; they're working. People are prepared to work, understanding that this is also a very important aspect of our struggle. Another very important piece of news in this subject today, the first vessel has reached its destination from Ukraine, reached the Ukrainian Turkish port. It was not the first ship to leave Ukrainian ports, but this was the first to achieve a successful route, reach its destination. We had the first serious result in this sense. To what extent do you feel that our international partners want and are able to make use of these new opportunities? Well, according to the information I have, uh, yes, there is significant interest because the world understands that it's not just Ukraine that needs this, it is the countries to which these vessels are going. And uh, uh, we've seen a lot of regard from international partners for the fact that Ukraine has managed to achieve all this in this difficult time. I have not really followed this, but it seems that we haven't seen such instances in history where projects like this were realized in conditions like this. So yeah, we've had applications. There are talks at the highest levels at ministry. I'm talking about the Ministry of Infrastructure, also the administration of seaports, and of course the personnel of the ports. Again, our people are prepared to do all this work. Our international partners, a very significant aspect, they fully trust Ukraine at this point. And I see a lot of regard and admiration for what our state is doing at this difficult time of war with the Russian aggressor. Yes, but there is interest. There will be more details about this, both from the coordination center working in Istanbul, because they are the ones granting permits uh, that allow us to execute these projects. Last week, Ukraine concluded the independent multimedia test for graduates of Ukrainian high schools, and this also took place in Odesa, of course. How could you tell us how is Odesa preparing for the start of the school year? How is the oblast preparing for the school year? Well, the oblast is preparing, which is the most important thing. We've been constantly doing this, and we will continue to prepare. But of course, we are concerned about the security situation. Of course, the personnel, the staff, and the schools and the parents will be making their decisions about how the school will work. Will it work online or will it work in person? Again, this is a question of security, about having shelters that correspond to the needs of the time. But the most important thing is there a sense that there is an understanding of the situation. The teachers and the children are prepared to work in any conditions because we understand that this is, for us Ukrainians, this is an important marker. This is an important answer to of in terms of what we will say to the aggressor, not only in the field on the field of battle, but also what we will show in the education sphere and what we'll show to the rest of the world. This has to do also with the cultural life. Sorry to step away from the subject of education a bit, but the cultural life in Odessa continues. Some theaters have renewed their work, and viewers have come in because they understand that the cultural front is no less important. Schools are preparing. There will be more details. When we have more details closer to September 1st, we will mention them. Will the school year start for all of the school kids in Odessa? It will start for all the school kids in Odessa, yes. It will start for all of the kids who, unfortunately, have had to leave the temporarily occupied territories. We're talking about Kherson, we're talking about Mykolaiv Oblast, we're talking about Kharkiv, other regions of our state. All of these children will, of course, be studying. The question is the format. Uh, but the schools are prepared. We have the opportunity to do schooling, and we discuss this at the regional military administration every day because we understand the significance of this educational front. However, the parents who are prepared to send their kids to school for in-person schooling, physical in-person schooling, will they have the opportunity to start this school year in this way? In this situation will be viewed in every school, and every school will make its decision. But we will follow the war situation, the military situation. And again, every school will make its own decision depending on the situation. Serhii Bratchuk, spokesperson of the Odesa military administration. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you. And this concludes our briefing program today. Please watch our announcements and stand with Ukraine.